Hey, we're the Turd Nerds. We're glad you're here. Before we take the plunge, let us introduce ourselves. I'm Dr. Rebecca Sand, a naturopathic physician and licensed acupuncturist specializing in digestive, microbiome, and hormone conditions and integrative fertility.
I'm Dr. Ami Kapadia. I'm a medical doctor trained in family medicine and functional medicine with a special interest in combining standard therapies with lifestyle and nutrition-based interventions.
And I'm Dr. Alana Gurvich, a naturopathic physician, licensed acupuncturist, and a fellow of the American Board of Naturopathic Gastroenterology. I specialize in IBD, IBS, and other functional GI disorders. Let's dive in.
The following discussion is for educational purposes only and not intended to diagnose or treat any diseases or conditions. Please consult your doctor before incorporating any of this information into your care. The information presented on this podcast is not medical advice.
Hi, Turd Nerds. Welcome back.
Hey, turds.
We are yet again down one turd. Dr. Kapadia is on vacation. She will be back, but we have replaced her with yet another and turd replacement.
Another turd replacement.
I've never been called that before.
Shout out to our other episode on fecal transplant.
We are meeting today with Ellen Goldsmith, who I just want to tell everybody a story about why I dragged Ellen onto the podcast.
I love when we start with stories.
Yeah. So Ellen Goldsmith happened to be my teacher when I was in school 25 years ago.
Oh, no, not that long.
How long?
Maybe 20.
20 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere between
Amazing.
20 and 25 years ago. She taught us Chinese dietetics. And what I learned sitting in that class was that Chinese medicine, first of all, is very, very old. It has been around for thousands of years. Second of all, they have very clear rules about how to eat, what to eat, and what affects the GI that we don't understand in our Western culture.
Yep.
And it wasn't until her clarity of explaining that when I was in school with her or when she was teaching me that I understood, oh, Americans don't know this. People in the West don't know this.
Right.
The Chinese know this. The Japanese know this.
Yep.
It's very boiled into their life.
Yeah. I have a story about that story.
Okay.
So I lived in China for 3 years or so. And when I was there, I was super interested in Chinese medicine. And I would ask people oh, I wasn't trained yet, but I knew, kind of like layperson Chinese medicine. And I asked people are you eating that because it's winter or, with the seasons? And they would say, well, yeah, that's just how you do it. And then I would kind of probe them a little bit more on, is it because, you follow Chinese medicine? And they're like, no, we don't do that. We don't believe in Chinese medicine, because I was working in biomedical sciences at the time. But it was so ingrained that even people who were like, I don't know that I believe that, still ate like this. It was amazing. And they were doing better. I mean, honestly, they were doing better.
So Ellen weaved her knowledge of Chinese dietetics, and
Yep.
she has literally written the book on Chinese dietetics. So just so you guys know, she's quite the expert.
Yep.
Nutritional healing with Chinese medicine. She is going to talk to us about Chinese dietetics and about how should we be eating? What don't we understand that is just boiled into Asian cultures
Yep.
about your digestive system and eating?
Yeah. And what major mistakes we're making and quick fixes that we can just adopt to feel better.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I don't know if I've ever said this before. I'm happy to be the third turd, but okay, I'll go with the flow
I'm
here.
very thrilled to have you.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here with you and really happy to be talking about Chinese medicine and food, which is a big passion of mine, like Alana said. I think one thing, Chinese medicine is the oldest continually practiced medicine. Not that there are older medicines, but it's been continually practiced. And the great thing is we can access that knowledge. It's been codified, it's written, and we can learn it. So we still have access to learning about it. I'd say that Chinese dietetics is basically, it's one branch of Chinese medicine. The whole thing in Chinese medicine is that prevention is superior to cure. And so that it's the original lifestyle medicine, because in the Huangdi Neijing, in the Yellow Emperor's Classic,
That's
which
one
is
of the main texts.
it's the main canon of learning about Chinese medicine.
And it was published in the 1300s. Is that right? Shen Han Lun is 1300s, I think.
I don't know the year,
I'm
but it's
impressed you're
yeah,
recalling these
it's
dates here.
2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
But on the first page, it's all about, people used to live to be 100. And because they knew the right way of eating, they knew when to sleep, they knew how to move, they knew how to manage their stress.
Yep.
And now people die at 50 because they drink wine like water and don't sleep regularly and don't move. This was 2,500 years ago. Okay, so this is a human problem in society,
Yep.
right? I want to say that the beauty of Chinese medicine itself is that it's based in the observation of nature.
Mhm.
Totally. Yeah, it's so
And
cool.
so that, it's applicable across culture.
Mhm.
So yes, we know it to be very strong in Chinese and Japanese culture. But if you look at the history of traditional practices around food,
Yep.
it's in every culture.
Yep.
Indigenous peoples in this country, indigenous people all around the world. I'm from Ashkenazi Jewish heritage, and I looked into that, and there's a tradition of that, of herbalism in Ashkenazi healing. It's like, I hate to say it, it's kind of common sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We
And
just forget it.
well, it's been kind of ripped out of us through industrialization and, the proponents of, eat this packaged food, eat this
Mhm.
food, eat that food. But when really, Chinese dietetics was the original locavore, and it was
Right.
seasonal eating, and you knew when to, like that comment you made, Rebecca, about, oh, they just knew what to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just part of the culture.
exactly. It's been passed down generation. This is how you do things.
And right. And when I have Asian Americans come to my practice, they'll go, oh my God, my grandma used to tell me to do that. Oh, maybe it makes sense. Or, when I send my daughter to
Yeah.
a Chinese acupuncture, she goes, traffic jam down there. You need to
Right.
eat more vegetables. I'm like,
Amazing.
oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
So it's in the culture. And I think why I'm so passionate about it is because if we just food is the way we connect to nature every day. If we're
Mhm.
eating real food, if we're eating food that's grown under the sun or raised responsibly or caught in the wild, we're eating food. And that's our connection to nature, because real food doesn't grow without nature.
Mhm.
You can have manufactured food, but that's not really food.
I mean, very, very literally, it doesn't have the nutrients
No, it doesn't have the
that food
nutrients, and
does.
it doesn't have the chi. The chi, which is like the vital force of a food, it's found.
QI.
Yeah, it's also chi. Some in Japanese it's ki,
Mhm.
or in Ayurvedic medicine it's prana. So the chi and the geographic location in the soil really influences that
Right.
vitality of the food that we're going to
I think it
get.
makes sense.
When I
So
was one of the reasons why I fell in love with Chinese medicine when I started studying it, and both Dr. Sand and I are Chinese medicine providers, as is Ellen, as
mhm.
well as being naturopathic physicians. One of the reasons why I fell in love with Chinese medicine is because it brings the patterns of nature into the body. And when I'm talking to patients about eating, like one of the things I'll talk to them about is that food is too cold.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or that food is too damp.
Or even herbal medicines we're using. I mean, it goes everywhere, but food is the basic.
Yeah,
It's like
and
the
herbal
basic.
medicine, right, and food therapy, yeah, they're the same
Yeah.
principles.
Yeah.
So why don't I talk about just
Mhm.
how the principles are a little bit different than
Can I
Western
say one thing that
nutrition?
maybe our listeners don't know? So when we
Yeah,
think about Chinese medicine, a lot of people think about acupuncture.
right. It's
Mhm.
just
And
one
that's sort of
branch.
like the gateway for a lot of
In the
folks
West.
Yeah.
in the West to finding Chinese medicine. But Chinese medicine is actually has tons of facets and routes towards healing is one way to put it, but prevention is another way to put it. And acupuncture is just one modality that we're trained in to be able to bring health and healing to people.
Right, and acupuncture is the physical therapy branch of
Right.
Mhm.
Chinese medicine,
Right.
along with body work. And then you have qigong, you have herbalism, you have diet therapy, you have shamanism as a
Mhm.
branch of Chinese medicine as well. But like you said, Rebecca, everything is based on prevention being superior to cure.
Yeah.
And I also think the important thing, the reason why I wanted to bring Ellen into this conversation is because dietetics, Chinese dietetics, is a treatment that people can give themselves 3 times a day, 4 times a
Right.
day,
And not need to pay a provider, not need to see a doctor. Oh, we love seeing everyone.
not
But
even needing to find, like, it's hard to find an
I
acupuncturist in
know.
some places. We have listeners all over the world.
Right.
There are unfortunately not acupuncturists everywhere in the world.
Right.
And so Chinese dietetics is literally a way that you can take control of your eating
Mhm.
to really change your digestive process
And everything else.
and everything else.
But we're
Yeah.
turd nerds. We're turd nerds.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wrote the book. And it's always, I tell my students, in the College of Classical Chinese Medicine, is that, people will come to you for a while for acupuncture. And if you're giving herbs, they'll take your herbs for a while and then they're going to stop. They're
So
either going to
true.
stop because they feel like, oh, I'm kind of better, which means they have symptom relief. Doesn't mean they have cure. They have symptom relief.
Right.
Or it's expensive, but
Or
like
they
a lot,
taste. They're an acquired taste.
they
I like
are
to say spicy dirt.
Spicy. Yeah,
that's a good way to do it.
I
But
like
li-
them, but
But like Alana said, I say to them, look, they may come to you for a while and that's good. but they're going to eat 3 times a day, hopefully, if they have access to
Yes.
food,
What a
so,
route in to
and
be able to help people.
that's the power of that medicine
Yep.
of food.
So can you break it down? So when you're looking at it from like a very, bird's eye view, can you explain what patients need to be paying attention to that's on their plate?
Okay, I'll get there, but I want to just backtrack a tiny
Okay.
bit because, like I said, Chinese dietetics is based in the observation of nature. So the question is, how can we connect more to our sensing, feeling bodies? I think a lot of us eat for taste, like up
Mm,
front here in the mouth and the tongue and everything.
The
mm,
immediate
Yeah,
pleasure.
immediate pleasure. But taste in Chinese dietetics as an herbalism has a function. Flavor has a function. The sweet flavor, and I'm not talking about Oreos or cakes or anything. I'm talking about carrots, peas, string beans,
As
winter
sweet. You
squashes,
mean
as
sweet for
sweet,
those. Yeah,
you
that's
know,
foreign to a lot of people.
right, grains, whole grains,
Yep.
that is not white bread. This sweet flavor is used to nourish and harmonize. Like children need that flavor a lot,
Boy, do they.
but they don't need
Holy
that.
moly.
They don't need the added
Fruit
sweet,
roll-ups.
and fruit things. They need
My
sweet.
3-year-old would beg to differ, but I
I
hear
know.
you.
Okay, so we have a running joke in my family. I have a 10-year-old and a teenager,
Uh-huh.
and I will taste something and I'd be like, oh my God, that tastes like a candy.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, in no world, Mom, does that carrot taste like a
Because
candy?
they just had a nerd's rope.
Exactly.
They
Even
have a
in my
point.
house, where we have very strong boundaries around sugar, nerds ropes are still coming into my house.
That's right.
Yeah, you
No,
lose
you
the
can't
battle
win.
in
You can't
preschool.
win.
You lose it.
Yep.
When my daughter was given candy and goldfish. Anyway, getting back to this thing of flavor, and how important, what's on our plate. There are 5 flavors that we consider in Chinese medicine.
Mhm.
Sweet, which is to harmonize and nourish. Salty, of course, we have that in salt. We have it miso, tamari. We have that in sea vegetables. We have it in seafood. We have it in pork, has a slightly salty kind
What
of.
does salty do?
Salty is very nourishing for the kidneys, and it helps to soften. Think about salt and water; it melts. So it
Oh,
can
that's a great analogy, actually.
it
Totally. I love the
soften.
visuals in Chinese
Yeah.
medicine. They're
Yeah,
so helpful.
yeah, and that it supports the kidneys, so it helps your water metabolism. It helps disperse fluids in the body, and it also helps the kidney to help to excrete what you don't need. So you want that nice balance in the kidney.
Right.
Then you have pungent and aromatic. I kind of divide them into 2, but they're in the same category.
Uh-huh.
Like you could think of pungent like garlic, ginger, galangal, onions, any kind of allium, but also daikon, radishes, mustard greens have a certain kind of pungent.
That's sulfur.
But there's an aromatic component in that category that you get from your kitchen cabinet. So you don't have to go and buy special herbs. You've got cinnamon, you've got clove, you've got nutmeg, you have dill, you have basil, you have oregano, you have rosemary, you have
So
thyme.
really any spices.
Any of those spices that are not spicy,
Uh-huh.
like hot pepper, help to warm your, what we call in Chinese medicine, the middle jiao, AKA the stomach and your digestive processes. Like you said, like don't have cold. Why? Because it kind of freezes up your digestive process. And it also requires your body to go, hey, it's cold in here. I got to warm it up so I can metabolize it. So those spices add flavor and they make food more palatable. They make it more yummy, but they also help your digestion. So you can take a sweet, like a regular rice, you're making rice, and you're kind of going, I want to do something in there. So you
Butter.
can
I
put,
want to do butter.
well, you want to do
Rebecca
butter.
always wants to do butter. That
That's
doesn't count.
sweet.
That doesn't count.
Okay. Oh, you can add that in
Oh,
after.
butter's sweet.
It is sweet,
Oh,
but you could add in coriander seeds or mustard
yeah.
seeds or
You know what I think about?
cilantro, and that makes it more aromatic, which makes it more your body, you digest your orifices, your senses start it. When you smell something, it smells good. You're like, oh yes. And your digestion starts working.
I want to say I just ate, but I'm hungry.
I'm
I'm ready.
I'm listening to you, and I'm actually thinking about Persian rice.
Yes.
Persians make their
Saffron.
rice saffron,
Yum.
also spices, coriander, and that rice is like when you eat it, you feel nourished.
Totally.
Well, saffron, honghua, is a very potent herb that helps to move the blood, nourish the blood.
Yeah.
So it's a very therapeutic herb. So all these kitchen spices you've got there that you think are just for that taste in the front of your mouth really have an action. So that pungent and aromatic is really an important flavor.
It is, and it's a way to turn food into medicine that's
Yes.
very accessible to people. Saffron
And
I'm using
delicious.
more and more in the perinatal period for
Huh.
depression.
Oh yeah, there's data on it.
Yep.
8.5
And
milligrams, or maybe
it's
82.5
gentle,
milligrams.
it works, and it's not as expensive as you would think.
Okay, so we've
Throw it
done
in your food.
sugar, we've done
Which
sweet, we've
we
done
haven't done
salty,
sugar. We've done sweet.
we've done sweet.
Oh,
Thank you. We've got sweet, salty, pungent.
and
What's
aromatic.
next? And
And
aromatic.
then we do sour. And
Yes,
sour,
love
you
sour.
know, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, summer is that flavor of sour because you have the sweet and sour, you have plums, you have all the stone fruit, you
Mm.
have the berries. And think about it when you eat a lemon, if you like bite into a lemon and you pucker up, but all of a sudden what happens in your mouth? This is like explosion of saliva. So sour has an incredible capacity to hydrate because it activates the body fluids and it also contains. So like sour, and it's contraindicated. You go like, well, summer, I just want to open up and I want to just be part of the whole kind of experience of
That
summer.
is true.
But
That is
you
true.
don't want to, as an Italian would say, sprecare la sua energia. You don't want to waste your energy out there. You want to make sure you keep some in. So you have to have that balance,
So it's like astringing.
It's astringing a little bit, but not drying.
Right.
Okay. There's a difference between astringing and drying
Yeah.
and that kind of containing. I like to think of sour as more containing. So sour is a beautiful thing. Rose hips is sour. Sorrel is sour.
Oh, I love sorrel. It
Yeah.
tastes like lemon.
It's growing on
Yeah.
my steps out there.
Oh,
Don't eat it, dogs.
Yeah, so sour, you have that flavor. And then the final flavor, and it's the most
Mm.
maligned flavor in our culture, bitter.
Oh, I love bitter.
And well, that's good. You're good. You're unusual.
Thank you. Did you hear
Because-
that? I'm good.
she said unusual. I'm just going to
I'll
point
take
it
it. I
out.
think she started with good.
Oh,
She started
I'm saying unusual because it's not a flavor that
we forgot.
we don't eat it in the West that much,
Yeah.
even though it's part of Western culture, really.
Yep.
You have, but in our culture, it's through chocolate, coffee, and beer.
Oh.
I love all those things.
Yeah.
I can give up beer.
But also tea is a certain bitterness.
Oh, I
like
love that. Now that
Yeah.
bitter I love.
like green tea has a kind of bitter and cooling. We also talk about does something warm you or cool you.
Yeah.
Whereas black tea is roasted, so it's a little bit more warming. So those bitters that like the chocolate, coffee, and beer, they don't really do the function of bitter, which is to clear excess heat in the body, clear like dampness or what we call phlegm or even cholesterol, fat. Bitter will clear and purge downward through like urination and defecation. So you find bitter in artichokes, asparagus, yellow grapefruit, all chicories,
Bitter melon.
and bitter melon, which is the most bitter flavor.
So
which-
basically our
so good.
cholagogues. Like these are our herbal cholagogues that clean the liver and the gallbladder,
Right.
Yeah.
which is interesting because one of the things that happens in Chinese medicine is we think about Western liver and Eastern liver as the same thing.
Right.
But based on what Ellen just said, they're completely different organs. They do they do functionally very different things.
Yeah, it confuses patients all the
Yeah.
time because the Chinese practitioner will say something like, "Oh, your liver qi, blah 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 blah," and they'll think something's wrong with their liver.
Like they have fatty liver, which a lot of people have.
Yeah, I mean there is crossover. There is crossover, but
There
sometimes they mean different things.
Well, listen, if your energy is constrained, if you're tense in your body, if you're living at a high level of stress, which most of us are right now in this world,
Not at all. I don't know what you mean.
when you're experiencing any kind of low level stress, even for long times, your body's going to tighten up, which means you're in a more sympathetic nervous system
Absolutely.
state,
Yep.
which stops functioning. And,
Right.
and if we look at, from a Chinese medicine perspective, liver qi, we want liver qi to flow like free and easy.
I am doing my best.
Yeah, I
am
know.
doing
If it's not, then a function of the liver, which is to detoxify, process, environmental toxins, et cetera, produce glycogen, nourish the muscles and the
like the
tendons.
very literal physiology of the
Oh,
liver
so there's-
gets impeded.
So I like to think of Chinese medicine as not like a silo different, but a kind of energetic overlay to the
Well,
physiological function.
What you were saying, I mean, kind of what we started with is prevention. Chinese medicine can catch these patterns sooner to be able to prevent it from cascading into what a lot of Western diseases are.
Yeah,
Which is so cool.
it is. So let's get back to this thing about
Okay.
the flavors on your plate.
Okay, yeah.
Now, here's the deal. I just want all of you out there, like your next meal, I want you to just make your meal and sit down and then look at your plate and go, okay, do I have like 5 colors on that plate? Do I have green? Do I have red or orange? Do I have white or beige or yellow? Do I have like a purple or a black? Do I have all these color? Do I have green on my plate? Green. I'm going to say, do you have green on your plate? Do it. And then I want you to like experience your meal and go, hmm, did everything kind of taste the same? Is it the overriding taste of it's salty and peppery? Or is it like too much garlic? Do I have a little freshness and something sour, like a fermented food, like a sauerkraut or a pickle, or even a little lemon on pea sprouts? It's spring. I just got pea sprouts yesterday at the market.
Oh,
Do I have a little bitter on that plate? And you don't have to have a lot of everything, but you have to have all those five flavors. You know why? Because you'll feel more satisfied.
So that is kind of one of the problems that we live in our modern era, like with this creation of ultra processed foods. One
that
of
are
the things,
sweet. They're sweet and
or
sweet
they're
and a
or they're
little
really
salty.
Well, they're salty
salty,
and they're fatty.
right?
Yeah.
But one of the things they do is they like it's like they're so well constructed
Yeah.
that it keeps on tricking your mouth into
Right.
thinking you are meeting all of those needs. You have like, I think about like Sour Patch Kids, which are like sweet and
Yum.
sour, you know what I mean? Or like what's a stupid air candy that's like super spicy, but also really sweet.
Yeah.
Like it's tricking your mouth. And then that actually,
Airhead? No, Warheads.
Airheads. Maybe,
Warheads are the sour one.
yeah.
Airheads are those taffy ones.
I will say it has been since elementary school since I had
Yeah, no,
them.
I'm deep in the thick of it. So
Yeah.
I was
I'm older,
recently
so I never
pregnant.
had those.
And so the difference is that tricks your body into thinking that you're meeting all of these very simple needs.
But then it wants to keep eating because you
and
didn't actually
they're
satisfy
really
it.
constructed. They're really constructed to make you addicted to it.
It
So you're
works.
never
It does work.
satisfied, which creates a kind of that brain gut connection too. If you're not satisfied, you're not satisfied.
Yeah.
So mentally, you're not satisfied. You're restless. You're
Right.
agitated. You're depressed. You're something or others. Food, the pleasure of food in all those five flavors and colors, textures, something very strong in Chinese culture, but it's also in all culinary traditions is mouthfeel. And so you want different textures in a meal. Like if you have a pureed vegetable soup, like my friend made me this beautiful pureed mushroom soup the other night. And so with that, we had some, like a very fresh salad with some bitter greens in it and, some sourness with the lemon and the fat of the oil and the salt, et cetera, and the sweetness of the sliced carrots in it. So you have this meal that's very simple. It's not like you have to get fancy. You can be really simple and be very satisfied. But if you have like a meal that's just all sweet and all mushy and it's just going to be like, I want
Body's
something
craving
else. So then
something.
you want to go and get a cookie or something.
Yes,
and then
I
you're
do.
going, oh, I shouldn't have had that cookie. And then you want something else.
I think this is a really important discussion because we teach people, especially women in our culture, that it's about discipline. You're just not disciplined enough. You eat your mushy lasagna and mushy whatever on the side, and then you crave something else. And we tell people, no, you're just not disciplined enough. You shouldn't do that. Be stricter, whatever. But really, if we constructed our meals a little bit better that supported our body in feeling fully nourished and better, maybe it's not just about discipline. Maybe it's just we don't teach people how to eat.
Eating is not just about nutrients. We don't eat
Right.
nutrients, we eat food. And, food always has been a way for people to join together, to come
Yes.
together,
Yep.
to share, the most intimate things, to, just share food. Sharing food is like a nourishing experience.
Nourishing on all levels.
Yeah. So it's not about should, that's why I love Chinese dietetics so much because it's not about what you should do.
Right.
It's about how do you reconnect to your body, to your your senses.
Yep.
How do you connect to the food that you eat? I mean, the way like Michael Pollan, I love how he put it, is that when the cook is like, you're like the intermediary between nature and your table.
That's
It's
cool.
when you're making alchemy there. And if those of you out there aren't really, you feel like, oh, I'm not a really good cook. I
Right.
don't know if I can do
But
this.
that's empowering what you
But
just
you
said.
you can learn. It's a skill.
Yeah.
And the thing is that culturally, I've been teaching this for like 40 years. And I remember when I started with my students at NYU, um, I saw in like the late 80s how the degeneration of the family dinner started to occur.
Yeah.
And then I got up to NUNM and one day it was like about, I don't know, more than 10 years ago. And someone said, I never knew like that you cook an egg. I just thought you microwave an egg. And I just asked the class, I
Yeah.
said, so how many have had that experience? I would say 95% of the people.
Wow.
So, we learn to cook from our grandma, from our mom, from our auntie, from our neighbor. Sometimes we didn't like our mom's food, so we went to our neighbor's house for dinner. So, and And we need to bring that back, but it's a skill. You can learn to do it. I promise you, just start simple. There are classes online. There's recipes online. If you watch a cooking show, take a recipe from that cooking show and do it. So, so that you start to refine the pleasure, but you have to find the pleasure in like bringing out the true nature of the flavor of the food. You don't want to cover the flavor of the food. Like that's why Japanese cooking is so refined and beautiful. You bring out the true nature of the food, and you can take a dandelion, for instance. It's very bitter, right? You can chop it up and put it in a salad. It's very bitter, and you're like, oof, I don't know about this. But you can boil it with some garlic and some olive oil and some salt, and then you can chop it up. You can make a kimchi from it. You can ferment it. You can do all kinds of things with one food and
a cheap one at that.
And a cheap one. Yeah. You can even go get it out of your yard if you don't have, chemicals in your yard. So I think, it's a way of bringing back, it's empowering, like you said, right? So you empower yourself to feel like I can care for there's a learning curve, but you can
rewarding.
care for yourself.
Yeah.
And so what? You have a bad meal. You go, okay, that's a bad meal.
Yep.
What's next? Allow yourself to fail, allow yourself to learn and share. Sometimes if you feel like, oh, I can't cook, have a potluck, see what people can bring over. Have a cookbook club,
I do feel like, Ellen, I have been listening to you talk about food for going on somewhere between 20 and 25 years.
I hope I'm not too dull.
Whenever I
Not at
listen to it,
all.
I feel like I get, it's like almost a dream. You know what I mean? Like you make it so simple and I don't feel like I'm like pushing against something. It's just really settle into your body.
That definitely so many of us are disconnected, and then we hear like, oh, soy is good if you're in perimenopause, and then all you're doing is drinking soy milk, tofu, soy ice cream.
It's
That's not really good for you.
It's just
And it's so like getting back to this whole thing of Chinese dietetics. It's not a prescription. You need like a vegetable that was good for you 6 months ago may not be right for you now. Something that you ate in summer is not going to be right in the dead of winter. It's like, how do we pay attention to what we need? And then if have a family, you don't want to be cooking 4 different meals for if you have 2 different, you want one meal with lots of different options on the table so people can make their plate the way they feel like they want it or need it or are craving, etc. So you can always have something a little special. That's why I have a whole chapter in my book on condiments, like salty kinds of things, chutneys, vinegars, pickles, anything. You can have little things on the table so that people can just pick and choose.
right.
Which is again, I think what makes Korean cooking so
Oh,
special.
so
Yeah,
fun.
they have like mastered the
Oh, yeah.
condiment. Yeah.
So good.
Banchan,
Yep.
the banchan, all those pickles that you get and everything. And, I think all cultures have had that because years ago, centuries ago when there wasn't refrigeration, what'd you have to do?
Preserved foods.
You had a pickle. I
Yeah.
remember Sandor Katz said that he went to China and like a sourdough starter, someone had a brine that was 2,000 years old.
Wow.
That had been passed down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sandor Katz is the king of fermentation. He wrote myriad books on fermentation if you want to learn more about that.
Cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Our bodies like evolved to know how to handle that and
Yes.
establish a healthy microbiome with it. And I mean, it's
Yeah, and
all
there has
directly to
not
the
been a
gut.
single culture in the history of humanity up until Western culture for the last 100 years that did not lean in and utilize fermentation.
Yep.
Exactly.
And now,
And it's good. It's so
oh my
good.
God,
It's
so good.
delicious.
Yeah, I mean, I love it.
I love it.
Where can people find you?
So I practice out of Portland, Oregon, but I see people virtually for nutritional consults or, if you're a practitioner and you want to talk about a case and want to talk about food, I'm here. I have a website, pearlnaturalhealth.com. I'm on Instagram, Goldsmith Ellen, Facebook, Nutritional Healing with Chinese Medicine.
And a book.
And I have a book, Nutritional Healing Chinese Medicine. And I have it all. I have, the first part is like learning about Chinese medicine and dietetics. But then the second part are 175 recipes.
Wow. Amazing.
And they're all organized by season. And so, and I have in every season, every section is the same. So you have breakfasts, you have soups, you have main dishes, which are either vegan, fish or meat. I have vegetables and sides. I have snacks. I have tonic, drinks, tonic beverages, and desserts, which are all gluten-free. So, there's a lot of ways you can learn about dietetics by not like, you don't have to get theoretical. I say get in the kitchen and
Right.
start cooking. And then like you can learn about like seasonal foods by just going into spring and cooking what's in spring or going into summer.
I will also say the other thing that Ellen has in her book is a bibliography at the end or a reference section.
Mhm.
Because what I'll often do is I'll be like, what is this random vegetable that I just got out of my CSA box? Let's see what Ellen does with it.
Oh, you mean
So
like an
that's
index?
it. That's
Amazing.
Now, the index actually, I love my publisher, but the index was not that great. But I think what Alana is referring to is this
Oh yeah, look at this.
the,
Let's pick this up.
the medicine herbs and medicinal and herbs.
And all the properties of
All the
them?
properties, like the
Cool.
properties being the flavor. We didn't start talking about warming or
We're
cooling,
going to
but
have
they're
you back and talk about that.
Yeah.
warming and cooling.
Metals.
And then, ways to prepare it. Like, can you eat this raw or is it only good cooked and what meridian system does it go for? So
Right.
like the way we talk about that in Chinese herbalism. So I try to include every vegetable and herb I used in the book in that part.
That's so cool.
So that's a great reference for people to look at. And, and I talk a lot about in the book itself, I have Chinese herbs, but it's okay if you can't get the Chinese herbs. But one thing I really like, I just want to give a shout out here in the breakfast section, because some people can't do grain a lot. So I created these essential seed and nut porridges.
I love those. That's actually my favorite recipe. I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah, for every season. What it uses
so
is
cool.
like flax and sometimes hemp seed or chia, and then a nut that is more kind of apropos to that season, like winter, it's a walnut. And then there is some plantain chips in there that just add a kind of
Crunch.
But
Cool.
what you do is you toast them and you blend them all up in the blender until it's like a powder. And then all you have to do is add water, and it has the kind of consistency of a porridge,
Wow.
but it doesn't have the grain, and it has the EFAs, the essential fatty acids from the nuts and seeds.
Wow.
So it's very, very nourishing, very easy on the gut. And sometimes, like for me, I'm not a big breakfast eater. So you want something that's easy to digest and
Yeah,
not
yeah.
cold, not a smoothie
Right.
in the
For
dead of
most
winter.
people, I would
Yeah.
say that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Easy
Yeah.
to digest and warm.
This was amazing.
Totally.
I learned so much, and this happens to be my medicine.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the fact that we both have degrees in this and we gleaned information from it really does say something.
Oh,
Thank you
well,
for
my
joining
pleasure.
us.
We just ignore food.
yeah, and it's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea because we
Yeah.
all of
Doesn't
us
serve
do
us.
it every day.
It's so true.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been great
Yes, it's
being here.
great.
Thanks, Turds, for joining us.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Turds.
Turds.
Thanks for joining us today. Stay tuned. We release episodes every 2 weeks.
If you like this episode, please subscribe and don't forget to rate and review us to help spread the turd nerd word.